Hey guys, BwPA bringing you this plus 25 fortified Everbloom Unholy run. Do the thing as I normally do, we'll do some commentary, we'll do some tips and tricks, all this kind of thing, have a bit of a chat as well about what happened since the last video I made about this. That's the kind of vibe. Not very guide focused this video, much more of a commentary one. I'll talk about a little bit about some of my thoughts recently about how I play, how I prioritize, that kind of thing. But overall, it's going to be a commentary video. When it comes to gear and talents here, I'm running a slightly modified disease build where I'm actually sacrificing 1 point internal agony. That's the one that increases your dark transformation duration when you spend stuff on Death Call and Epidemic. And I'm putting that in Pestilence instead. If you sim this, it's better in Dungeon Slice and slightly worse in like a Dungeon Route scenario. It's one of those things where it is better in a short pool environment, which is very much what Dungeon Slice emulates. Whereas if you have longer pools, you get more value from Internal Agony, which means that ends up being slightly better. I think it's a bit, potato kind of vibe where it doesn't matter that much. Personal preference, I don't think one is necessarily much better than the other. Furthermore, you can see I'm sticking with my Wool Necropolis build here, where I just get incredibly tanky. I do fancy it. I know it's not necessary, but in those instances where, people are dying, it's getting messy, it is so useful to just be incredibly tanky. You do become when you pick up Wool Necropolis, right? When it comes to my gear, I'm running a Might of the Ocean in conjunction with the Versatility Trinket, right? We talk about Versatility being bad for Unholy. The thing is that due to that being a thing, we generally don't run much of it. You can see I'm running 1800 total with the Trinket included. With stats, the less you have of a stat, the more powerful it becomes to actually get some of it, which means that in the end, that Trinket is actually really powerful. It's loads of raw stats, which we love. Pair that with Might of the Ocean. This is a personal preference thing. You can definitely run the Mirror instead, or like another passive. I just like the fact that Might of the Ocean always synergizes with Unholy Assault, which makes it so much easier to get value from army. Because at maximum, you need to hold army for the next Unholy Assault, versus if you have Might, or if you have Mirror, you can end up situations where stuff's going to get desynced and it's just going to get tricky. I always run it because it's a bit of a comfort pick for me, essentially. Embellishments, I have blue silken lining on my versatility wrist. They have really good value in a Myth Plus environment, specifically due to, what's it called? Having a lot of uptime. Like, you don't take that much damage in Myth Plus generally if you play properly, which means that you get a lot of uptime overall, right? I'm pairing that with the haste legs. However, I've been considering, I need to check this in simulations. Haste legs are really powerful in sims. By the way, there you can see I dismissed my pets. That's specifically due to Magus of the Dead pulling Gnarl Root. They're a bit of annoyance. I'm not sure if this might be the key where actually ninja pull like 3 times with them. Doesn't happen that often, but this key, I think it just went ham. Magas, they spawn behind you, and especially with patrols and things, they just stick there and can easily ninja pull. We'll highlight those instances and what you should do to get around them. Anyway, I was talking about haste legs over sim due to the fact that in Dungeon Slice, the pulls are really short, which means that they have loads and loads of uptime. And it's much better to run like a Dungeon Route scenario where you have some more realistic numbers. To be fair, when you have Spiteful up, like as soon as they spawn, it's going to give you stacks of the haste, which is pretty nice. But, I would probably run double Blue Silken, so I'll take a look at it. But I think I might be replacing my, hands in this setup specifically with some crafted hands that do use Blue Silken lining. Just so much raw stats, right? I think that's all the chat when it comes to the trinket choices and such. You can run like, depending on your stats, like if you don't have a lot of crit, Butcher's Block gains value. If you don't have a lot of mastery, you get value from Crab. If you don't have enough haste, you get value from accelerating sunglass, that kind of thing. They essentially act as raw stat trinkets. Oh, by the way, this is a mistake from my part. So the tank goes in and fears these guys because he's going to go over, pick up the petals, and then come back. I wasn't quite, on top of that, so I managed to break those out, which means that this is a bit of a messier one, but we managed to pull it together and still go for it. So far in this key, this is like the nice portion for Unholy DK. They are big pulls. It's just loads and loads of DPS. You can see there at this point, I'm sitting at 1 million DPS on average, which is pretty insane. That's going to drop low in the keys because the more other pulls are going to be a bit smaller. We don't do as many petals. Those are the ones that kind of pad your DPS. Now, let's talk about this rotation thing I've thought about. So when you look at simulations, how do you currently play it? There's this thing where stacking Festamite competes with spending epidemics, right? Specifically, at the early stage of a pool, you get a choice. Do I stack Festamite and overcap on runing power slightly? Or do I make sure I spend my runing power on epidemic and not cap Festamite that early? It's a bit tricky. Specifically with Pestilence, you end up in situations in big pools where you essentially get like 8 stacks of Festamite every single Scourge Strike. So what you can do is before your first defile runs out, you can actually triple Scourge Strike, get a big stack, and then you can use Epidemic Spam, right? That means that you will get slightly fewer epidemics off at start of pool. However, the subsequent epidemics coming after that point is going to be much stronger. I think, again, it's going to be like a minor difference, but I've been playing around with it, especially with Pestilence, as I said. That front loads quite a lot of the wounds you get in a pool, which means that you kind of get value from this gameplay where you actually stack up Festamite and then spam Epidemic. And to be fair, like Scourge Strike on its own, it deals quite a lot of damage. So it's not like you trade something that deals a ton of damage against something that deals 0, that kind of thing. You can see I have the Legendary Axe. I'm not sure if I mentioned that earlier. It's a big plus in Myth Plus. Like, the actual damage itself does a significant amount of damage. It sits around 5-6% of my overall-ish. When it comes to using it, it's a bit tricky because it does a lot of damage, right? One use in single target is like 1 million and then that scales up with how many of the dots you can consume. In big AoE though, you need to consider the opportunity cost. So you channel it for 2 GCDs. That's a lot of damage, yes, but what are you losing by not using those 2 GCDs on other things? Especially early in a pool, well, you're going to use lots of Epidemics and lots of Scourge Strikes, so it's going to be not stacking Festamite, it's going to be not stacking Death Rot, not dealing lots of damage. So even though if you compare like on a damage per damage basis, it's not that big of a loss in a 2 GCD environment. You end up losing quite a lot of damage because you delay that setup of all those buffs, essentially. That's why I tend to use it towards the end of pools, especially when the stuff is dying. Like, when you use it, it consumes all the marks. If those targets die, you that's kind of free damage. At that point, you're not having your cooldowns running. The GCDs you're pressing are not that impactful, which means that the opportunity cost is much lower. So as a general rule, that's what I do. I use it towards the end of packs where I don't incur such a big opportunity cost. Right, that's it. When it comes to the run here, we are currently fighting our Witherbark. The main thing here is about using your cooldowns appropriately within the window. It takes around 45 seconds-ish for him to actually get into the damage increase phase, when he's standing there. So you can pop Apoc, Blight, and DT on pool, and then you want to save Army and Whole Assault for the actual kind of damage increase taking phase. And you can see we're kind of blasting this guy quite well, so that's good. I can't remember if I got PI here. That's obviously going to have an impact, but at the end, I do end up at higher than 450k overall. That's the kind of number you can expect for Unholy in this environment. This is the Unholy dungeon, in a sense, and you can really pull up big numbers. I think this is where I'm going to end up ninja pulling, if I remember correctly. I can't remember if I did a 25 or 26. I'm not sure. Anyway, what happens, right? As you can see here, I'm standing with my back. Let's say I end up using my Apocalypse, and you can see the Magi spawn behind me. And the thing is, that's in the path of a patrol, if I remember correctly. Anyway, so get around this, you need to pay attention where your Magi sits, and you can use pet move to command. So you can see I have it on control 2 there to control where your pets actually move to. So you can see they're standing behind me, they're not moving, they have loads of range. So in this kind of situation, oh, honestly not 100% sure if they actually did pull. We'll see. But you can see he's standing there to the right. I think there's going to be a pack walking into him, and I'm going to end up ninja pulling that. This abomination thing, big tip here, you can immune the big AoE he does. So both the damage portion itself, but he puts on a nasty dot afterwards, which can be completely immune with AMS. So it's a really good opportunity to actually leverage it there. So you can see here, we actually did not have any problem dealing with that. Did I actually? Hang on. Maybe this is... Okay, never mind. This is the good Everbloom. I did another one on a 26 where Ninja pulled like 3 times. So don't mind me. It is something to be wary of though, because yeah, your pets love the Ninja. It's kind of like the Always Serve Archer does the same thing. Due to being range, if you fight a pack in a specific location and then you move somewhere else, your pets will stay, and that can cause issues with Ninja pulling, right? You can see a pack here. I have a weaker up there. I know it's ready, but I won't use it until the end of the pack. Hopefully, I can't remember what I did here, but we'll see. Just due to the fact that my GCDs are just too valuable to do at the start, and it's better to use towards the end. No? Alright, I'm apparently saving that. Okay. I think in hindsight, I should have used my legendary there to get some value from it, but oh well. Now, we're going to leverage this Warlock skip here, which is really valuable, because you can take a gate here, and then just go straight to the second boss, which is quite nice. So the Warlock is going to gate, take that, and then we can instantly go for the second boss. And it's quite good with the Bloodlust timing, because you want to commit Bloodlust for this boss. It's a tricky one. So we Bloodlust this, and then we can kill the pack afterwards. On this fight, I am going to dot everything up. With the legendary, we're quite good at multi-dotting, and obviously the disease build does a lot of dot damage, so dot everything up, and then I'm gonna use Epidemic here. It does more on a per damage basis, because we have 2 stack targets, which is generally sufficient to make it equal, and then the third one makes it better to just spam Epidemic. Furthermore, this allows me to actually stack up my Death Rot on the guy over there, which is gonna help my dot damage as well, so definitely an Epidemic angle here. And you can see I'm doing quite well in the damage department due to the fact that I can do this kind of dotting. Unfortunately, you know, didn't quite time this with my army, but what can you do? I'll just have to use it when my Unholy Assault comes up. And this is a situation as well where I wanted to use army with Unholy Assault, and I can then delay it. I don't need to worry about the fact that Mirror would have like different duration, blah, blah, blah. I can just safely know that, okay, I have an Assault. When I use that, that's going to be my Trinket. So it's easy peasy to, you know, synergize those. When it comes to interrupts here, we have an assign interrupt where the Demon Hunter interrupts the Toxic Bloom. That's really important to interrupt. You will wipe if that comes through. And then I'll just send whatever interrupt I can. This boss is difficult because these Nature's Wrath bolts, they just get sent out and there is no cooldown on it when you interrupt it. So whenever you can, you interrupt it, but that's just a single damage instance saved, which is a bit too bad. But that's just what makes this boss a bit tricky on the higher keys. Now, army's back up. I have all my other cooldowns, so I'm just going to make sure I send that. I'm going to use Apocalypse to start a new Festimate window, and then use Unholy Assault, and just keep going here. I'm going to try and use Epidemic as well. Click my potion, get some extra value. And then we're just going to kill these 2 guys together. Let's see. Sometimes I notice here that it lags so much. I'm not sure why, but yeah, who knows? Usually it's fine, and then sometimes it just completely lags out. So there you go. You can see here I'm doing quite well. Damage-wise, again, a lot of it comes from the fact that we are pretty good at multi-dotting as Unholy DK with this build. With the raid build, like, the dots take all, but in this one, they actually do significant amount of damage, and we have our mark of Fearless, which is also pretty good. Nice, we get some value from our legendary. Make sure we use that as much as possible where it's appropriate. And then this guy's going to down, and we're going to move on to the next set of packs. When it comes to damage, right? Honestly, I've been gapping everyone I've played with recently. Like, there's no one been close to beating me on the overall. I think Unholy is pretty good when it comes to dealing lots of damage, like with legendary. Especially if you pull big enough. It's just, yeah, it's hard to beat it when it just scales so well. I know in the MDI, we actually don't see that many Unholies, so I'm a bit surprised about that, to be honest. But it turns out that playing Destruction Warlock is just really good, especially due to the fact that you can funnel a lot of damage into bosses, I think. So they take the packs, they pull on the boss, the Destro is going to do lots and lots of boss damage due to that. So that's probably why you see lots of destructions. I don't know, I'm a bit surprised because I think Unholy is also one of those specs that just does really well in the MDI environment due to the fact that we have essentially uncapped AoE. We have Epidemic, it scales quadratically up to 9. We have all dots scaling linearly. So, yeah, who knows. By the way, you can see I am not running AMZ here. It's a bit of a tricky choice due to the fact you have to sacrifice Improved Death Strike. And man, I love Improved Death Strike, so I've been playing without it for a while, and it just feels really bad when you press Death Strike and you're like, that didn't heal as much as it should have, right? Oh well. It's what it is. It's really useful in specific situations. For instance, in Everbloom, the final boss, you have it been really good for the stomp. Right? He spawns on ads, and he does it the stomp, where you have lots of ticking damage and that big damage coming in. That is where you want to commit an AMZ to help everyone survive, because that's really where people will die on that specific encounter. Alright, so we dealt with our pack. Right, he's going to go kicking the priority. This is going to be the Pyroblast coming in from the fire pack. And then I'm going to be the backup, so I'll do the second one. Alright. We're putting up a couple packs. Here's also a situation where it can be dangerous with your Magi, potentially ninja bullying. So you have the pack with the arcane dude will patrol this area. So you need to be careful about that. Here we go. So at this stage, I haven't really thought too much about Scourge Strike versus Epidemic Priority. So you can see at this specific instance, I hit 20 stacks of Festamite when it pretty much finished. Whereas, you know, if you try and stack Festamite earlier, you get much more duration of it. So if you integrate the strength over time, the earlier you hit your 20 stacks, the more effective strength it will give you. That's the kind of vibe. That's also why we discussed this thing where, you know, using Scourge Strikes early, even though it overcaps you on Runic Power, it can be the play due to the fact that it buffs all the epidemics that come after that point. So I don't know, it's a tricky one. I think the Sims currently they do Scourge Strike if you don't overcap, but you also have this situation where Scourge Strike will generate a ton of Runic Power in that specific situation. Like if you're bursting 8 wounds, that's 40 Runic Power just from the wounds themselves. And that makes it a bit tricky, right? Because then you're going to have to think about, all right, I need to go drop down to like 40 Runic Power to not overcap, that kind of vibe. I don't know. I think fundamentally, I'm not 100% sure. And like many of these things, I think it doesn't matter that much. It's very hard to measure because you obviously have Sims, but they don't always completely reflect reality. And you have instances where, you know, in Sims, if the pull is short, you have, you know, sitting on that early Festamite window is important. I don't know. Leave a comment down below if you thought about this. What do you guys think is better? Have you tried it out? Again, you know, I could play one way for one dungeon and then another in another dungeon, but that's going to be really difficult to compare because you have so many other effects. And if it's like a 1 to 2% difference, there is no way you can tell one dungeon from the other apart. Like the variance when it comes to pool size, when it comes to the other people playing, where you see these kind of line up, all those kind of things will have a really big impact on your overall DPS, which makes it so difficult to actually tell whether or not doing one thing is better than the other, right? All right, we're going to deal with the Pyromancer pack here. Obviously, when he does his Cinderbolt volley, that's when you really need to be really careful. So committing AMS, IBF, Lichborn, that is what you want to do to make sure you survive those. It's also annoyingly random, so I should have definitely used a defensive there. Let's see if we actually get rest. We have 2 rests here, so I think I'm waiting for it. This quickly gets out of hand. There's so many drops, you need to kill it quickly. If not, you end up dying due to lack of in drops, essentially. But I do come up, right? The pack is about to die, so we're going to save the second interrupt there. And he also quickly releases. Another thing is that we used a skip for the second boss, which means that if I die and release, I won't be able to get back if the Warlock doesn't run back and give me the gate again. So it's not a reason to actually sit on the floor, which I don't think I considered at the time, but ended up being the play. All right, this dies. Next boss is all about defensive usage. So what he does is he does 2 dangerous sets of abilities and then 1 kind of safe set. So the dangerous sets is when he does Cinderbolt Volley, which does an absolute ton of AoE damage, and you want to commit a defensive for every one of those. So how it works is that you will be able to use AMS for every second one. So you use AMS, and then you have to use another defensive. So you would go AMS and then use Icebound Fortitude, and then go AMS and then use Lichborn. And then you go AMS, and then you essentially run out of cooldowns, but at that point you will usually kill it. You want to use Lichborn for the first one, by the way, so it comes up quicker. And that's pretty much it. You will also, if you don't have any cooldown, you want to save up some rooting power so you can Death Strike in the middle. That also helps you survive. All right, we're going to kill these. I think we're good on the, yeah. At this stage, I'm going to save my army and Holy Assault. I obviously wanted for the boss fight. And make sure to use that. Here's another part where I do kind of like to use my legendary. So once your defile drops, you can use it in the middle before you go for the next one. Again, it's going to be hard to say if it would have been better to kind of use Epidemic instead. But in a very short pool, you won't get that much value from like stacking Death Rot and things as you would in a longer pool. So that's where, that's why we talk about using legend towards the end of pack, because then you don't really care about stacking up, your buffs and whatever. It doesn't bring that much value. All right, so we end up not actually getting 100%. So what we're going to do here, I think we're just going to die after the final boss or something like that. I think what we try to do is go pick up one of the stingers, but then he kind of ignores us, so we'll just have to die towards the end. All right, so you can see here, the first Cinderbolt, you shouldn't have to use a cooldown for because there's nothing else happening. So the healer will just have an easy time, make sure everyone stays topped. Second one, commit AMS, right? AMS will be sufficient to survive one of these, 100%, unless you're extremely unlucky and take like all the Cinderbolt hits, but don't think that is possible in the end. All right, so that's sorted. The next one is just the Arcane and Frost. There is no damage. You just need to make sure you actually don't get soaked in, but you can use Death's Advance to make sure the blast doesn't pull you, right? And the next one is going to be dangerous. I'm going to commit either Lichborn or Icebound Fortitude. Can't remember which one. We'll see. Comes into play. I do Icebound. You can see there, if you had been a bit early with the previous AMS, you could have used it again to get some extra value, but it's kind of fine to do it this way. All right, and you can see here, it's 25 fortified, so it dies relatively quickly, which means that I will be able to keep it AMS here for the next one. And then I'll do Lichborn. All right, by the way, don't do that. It hurts instantly, the fire, so need to be careful about that. Anyway, I'm not run out of cooldowns. I could have survived another one if I wanted to, so All good. All right, we got a safe one. Whoop. Managed to barely escape that. And then boss is going to die. Great. And now we're going to pick up some extra percentage, but we're going to fail. So I'm just going to make sure I'm going to go through. All right, we get Stinger. The Stinger ignores us. We go to final boss. Now, this fight here. So the whole deal here, which I see I do not actually do properly, is making sure you align your cooldowns with every big ad, right? To do that, you actually need to hold them in the first, when you first engage the boss. It feels bad, yes, but if you hold them for like 20, 30 seconds and then start using them with every ad, they will be up for every single ad. And that's going to be crucial because killing the ads is by far the most important thing in this fight. They will do ticking damage. And this specific case where you have ticking damage and the boss does his AoE, that is when people are going to die. So you 100% need to focus down the ads and save cooldowns for them. And as I said, that's pretty easy for us. We just need to make sure we delay the first set of CDs, right? So I think if I'm a good player here, I'm going to wait with my cooldowns. Ideally, should have done that at the start, but we can just delay them at this point as well and make sure we time them with every single ad after this point. All right, so I can see that the ad is going to come up in around 5 seconds. So I'm going to use my army and then make sure that all my CDs up and running. And we can just obliterate this ad coming up here. Very important, press your X, or pet attack Mocken, I have it on X, to make sure your pets actually attack the ancient ad. And you can see it's dying really quickly. Furthermore, I have AMS for every single instance of this dangerous overlap where he does his AoE and you have the ad up, just AMS that and you will survive it every single time. We're really quite nice for the healer because it means he doesn't actually need to worry too much about healing us. Obviously, doing it this way means that you actually lose out a bit on the overall DPS, but it's much better than being greedy and using cooldowns on the boss, because that is not how you actually manage to kill this. All right, we got another ad. I have my cooldowns up. I'm actually going to use them just before the ad comes up, so they're kind of up and running when it's time to kill it. There we go. Also nicely, I managed to restart my festival window there, which is ideal. So there we go. And I'm getting PI. And we use AMS. Easy peasy. This would be the scenario where you also use AMZ to help your team survive. So if you'd say high key, you need to coordinate. So you would do, okay, this one we're going to use darkness. This one we use this other cooldown. This one use the healer cooldown to make sure that you survive in a good way. But yeah, there's nothing too exciting going on there. I will have my overall breakdown of things here. You can have a look and see exactly what deals damage. It's going to be the standard, you know, your diseases, epidemic. You're going to have some stuff coming from your legendary, and that's the kind of vibe, right? All right, boss is going to die very soon. What we're going to do is we're going to quickly jump off the edge. So the edge right here, if you jump off it, it kills you instantly. Unfortunately, that will actually not allow you to release straight away. The boss fight itself drags on for a couple of seconds, which was a bit of a nerve-wracking moment, but it's fine here because we essentially just need to kill a single mob. So we're going to kill this last ancient, starting quite slowly. And then we're going to finish off the boss here. Ideally before the next, I think it's going to be no problem doing it before the next ad spawns. All right, no problem there. I'm going to send my last set of cooldowns. Probably should have saved that for that pack we need to kill. But oh well. Hindsight is always easy, isn't it? Boss dies. We jump to our death. We have like a minute 30 to kill one ad, and that's going to be fine. Right, so we kill that. Release. And it seems like the tank wasn't quite ready for this, so he hasn't actually come to help us. But I'm going to go and actually tank the mob, so we can kill it. So it's a berserker. All right, I'm like, okay, hang on, we need to actually go. So, yep, I'm going to grip that. We're unholy, right? We're pretty tanky, so Funnily, I don't actually have Taunter in this build, so there we go. Open up the spellbook. And I think at this point the tank is already here, so I should probably bind that properly. Anyway, kill this mob. End the dungeon at around 453k, so quite happy about that. That's it. Anyway, comment down below. Let me know what you thought about this video. Upvote, downvote, consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.